I honestly don't get it. I don't want to specifically make movie reviews on this channel, but just like Shang-Chi was special to me as an Asian myself, this Spider-Man No Way Home movie is very particular as a Spidey fan, which is why I have to express myself about it. And also everyone is doing it, so why not follow the trend? So as you know it, I'm a big fan of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm also a huge fan of the character of Spider-Man. He is my favorite superhero of all time. He is the only superhero from whom I own comic books, and one of the rare movies I actually own physical copies of. So yeah, I love the Sam Raimi trilogy, even the third one. It was actually my favorite one for a while, but I sadly landed someone who never returned it to me. So with all of that said, I think you can understand why I want to talk about this Spider-Man No Way Home movie. But here's the catch. Despite all of those facts, I was part of the minority who did not expect that movie. Because if you didn't know, the whole world is apparently expecting it. I was not hyped nor excited to watch this movie at all. Two reasons for that. One, I didn't really like the previous MCU Spidey movies, so Homecoming and Far From Home. Apart from the teenage aspect of it, which I don't really like, it's mainly because I couldn't feel the struggles Peter has to go through with responsibilities. Never felt the weight on his shoulder. Two, from a writing story point of view, bringing the multiverse now, so that concept of having similar universe to our own and that at one point would collide between each other into that Spidey MCU story felt way too early in my opinion. So, were my fears founded? Let's find out. Starting with a brief summary, Spider-Man No Way Home, directed by John Watts, follows Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, right after the events of Far From Home, where a big issue comes into his life and forces him to seek the help of a certain Doctor Strange, which will lead to the arrival of enemies from different universes. So yes, clearly, if you didn't watch the previous Spidey movies, MCU or not, or some of the main Avengers movie with other characters like Doctor Strange, you may feel a bit lost, not understand everything perfectly, and feel like that's quite a lot of characters here, which is quite similar to Endgame, but I'll come back to that comparison later. But yes, the trailers do reveal the major plot of the movie, sadly. So now, the question you are probably wondering is, did I like it? No, not that one. Did I love it? No, not that question either. The question everyone wants to know the answer is, are Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the movie? Just in case you don't know, they are the two actors who played Spider-Man back in the days for the Raimi's and the Webb's movies. Well, honestly, I'd rather not tell you. And if that's all you want to know, well, I feel pretty sad that you only care about the potential appearance of previous characters rather than what will happen to the current MCU Spider-Man. And basically, the whole movie is being spoiled online right now, so it won't be hard for anyone to find out. But for once, I appreciate that the trailers and the advertising campaign never confirmed if yes or no those actors are in it. So I will just go along with that and simply recommend you to, go watch the movie and find out yourself. But to answer the question if I liked it or not, yes, as a Spider-Man fan, but as a movie lover, quite less. Let's see why. I'll start with the pacing. I came across reviews that say that the movie is just non-stop action, that it passes by in a flash. But I personally don't feel this way. I feel the movie was quite slow, especially in the middle part, and even the final act wasn't as punchy as I expected. I do enjoy slower movies, like for comparison, I love The Eternals and Dunes, which are very slow movies that take the time to set up the future action. But it was so much more well done in those movies than in No Way Home. Concerning the acting, it was pretty good in my opinion. It's one thing I like about the MCU is that most of the actors are very involved in their characters, so it transposed well on screen. I never had any issues with acting really. Although I didn't like his previous Spidey movies, I appreciate Tom Holland's interpretation of the character. I can feel his enthusiasm of playing Spider-Man and trying his best to live up to that title of being Spider-Man. Zendaya, who plays MJ, this time can show more of her acting range where she's doing great. Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned, doesn't have much to show off, but he's doing his job well and he will probably get some good laugh out of you. I don't have much to say about the other actors. always great. Big love for Alfred Molina, who plays Doc Ock, and of course Willem Dafoe, aka the Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn, aka my nightmare as a 6-year-old kid who couldn't sleep because of his voice in my head. I'll just say that J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, was much more monumental in the Raimi movies than in No Way Home.
You serious?
The music is not very noteworthy. There are some nice reprises of the past movie theme songs, but if what I remember the most is the old songs, well, it's kind of proof that the current ones are not that great or catchy. Apart from this one, which is actually a remix of cartoon theme songs.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
Yeah, not very creative. Concerning the cinematography, well, it's not very memorable either, sadly. It's better than in Homecoming or Far From Home, with the use of a bit more diverse color palette, just a bit. But I sadly don't have any memorable shots that are stuck in my mind. The most impressive ones being the sequences from Doctor Strange, which comes from Doctor Strange and not from Spider-Man. I like this shot of the trailer, but yeah, none of them really stuck in my mind that I wanna have them as a background screen, for instance. Even the final battle, unlike Endgame where there's this shot, which is probably one of my favorite shots of the whole MCU, I never felt that here. And talking about the final battle, well, I do have to say that I feel a bit disappointed about the action sequences. Especially in the final act, I felt it wasn't easily readable, easily understandable. Maybe one fight with the Green Goblin that had some guts to it, where I could feel the pain of Spidey. But apart from this one, well, none of the action sequences, and especially the final battle, yeah, they all lack some punches. Concerning the humor, well, I'm still not a fan of it, still feel it's too much and unnecessary. I'm actually quite annoyed at this joke.
What was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
It's part of the movie. Still don't understand what is funny here. If you could just explain it to me in the comment, that would be nice, because I honestly don't get it. But I will agree that some of the Spider-Man universe-related jokes did work on me pretty well and did put a smile on my face. And that thanks to the fan service, which is all over the movie. To the few older people who may not know what fan service is, it is basically when an author intentionally adds characters, events, images to please the viewer, to give what the viewers want, but that is not necessary for the story, for the plot. The most common use of fan service is that in manga books. So as a Spidey fan, well, of course I love that fan service. But the movie is a festival of references, callbacks and fan service. There are so many "hey, do you remember that?" moments that I cannot keep the count of. They even replay the exact sentences of the previous movies, like this one from the 2002 Spider-Man movie.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Willem Dafoe, aka Norman Osborn, will say the exact same words in No Way Home. So I think I can now address the story of this movie, and from a writing point of view, this No Way Home film is very lazy and full of convenience. Convenience are they are basically using characters from other movies so that they don't have to introduce them themselves at all. And on the contrary of the Avengers movies, where there have been movies in between to give context to all of those characters and plant seeds to arrive to this big conclusion that is Endgame. It's not the case here, as the previous Spidey movies were made independently, and even for the MCU Spider-Man movies, well, none of them really planted seeds to arrive to this big finale that is the multiverse. In Far From Home, they actually denied the whole thing. So it really feels like the whole multiverse thing was not planned back then and just incorporated in No Way Home for fanservice. And because of that, No Way Home has to give brief explanation of who the villains are to the general audience, to the few person who may not have watched the previous Spidey movies. But by doing so, well, they kinda contradict the original movies. An example would be Doc Ock, who here in No Way Home knows who the Green Goblin is, when that was never revealed in the Raimi's trilogy. And even without the use of the previous characters, I can tell you that the movie relies heavily on the use of a technology that is very, very convenient for what Peters wants and has to do. So overall, the fan service really touches me deeply as a Spider-Man fan. In my room, there were actually a lot of cheering and clapping, and although I didn't, because my fanboy inner self was definitely cheering and clapping with them. But creativity wise, I can't help but wonder, couldn't they have just come up with something brand new on their own? And from there, I think one of my conclusions of No Way Home, as I feared, is that the whole multiverse thing was not needed to tell the story Peter has to go through here. His journey throughout the movie could have ended up the exact same way without characters from other universes, especially when it's part of a cinematic shared universe where other superheroes exist. This is definitely my biggest disappointment of the movie. The multiverse is not justified enough apart from nostalgia and fan service. So yes, from a cinematographic, writing, creativity point of view, this movie didn't feel outstanding. To show some comparison, well, just look at those shots from this movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once, which also talked about the multiverse. It looks so much more artistic than what No Way Home gave us. Or what this incredible animated film that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, if you want to see how the multiverse of Spider-Man can be done well when it is needed, when there is a valid reason for that to happen. Because yes, it may be the first superhero multiverse movie, but it's definitely not a new concept in the cinema history. Gosh, I may sound a bit severe, a bit bitter here, but it's simply because I love Spider-Man. I really love that character, and all I want is for the whole world to enjoy it as much as I do. And for that, well, the movie needs to be good, it needs to be creative, the story needs to be well written, and this is not really the case here. But you know what, guys? Despite all of this, I still feel that No Way Home is a good Spider-Man movie. And because of that, I like the movie a lot, and yeah, I will go watch it again for sure. I finally care about Tom Holland's Peter Parker. Finally, his Peter Parker has to go through tough times, question himself, grow, become an adult. The movie addresses real questions about morality, values, and the most important one being responsibilities. This one is what defines Spider-Man in my opinion, and finally seeing that part of the MCU is so satisfying that as a Spidey fan I just cannot not enjoy the movie. And thanks to that, to my involvement in the characters, well, the movie is indeed moving. There is emotion to it that I cannot deny. I did tear up a little, to not say cry, and that emotion felt especially true with the three friends that are Peter, MJ and Ned, which will be the one that I will appreciate and remember from the Homecoming, Far From Home and No Way Home trilogy, although I still don't appreciate the teenage part of it. And because I went through all kind of different emotions, from joy to sadness, passing by laughters, well, the movie did its job, and it truly made me feel that cinematic experience which every movie aims for you to feel. So to conclude, Spider-Man No Way Home is a good Spider-Man movie with a lot of faults, full of nostalgia and fan service, but so enjoyable as a Spidey fan. Which is why I can only recommend you to go watch it and make your own opinion, especially if you are a Spidey fan like me, and actually especially if you're not a Spidey fan, to see if what the movie offers can touch you as well. And I don't know how much I can say to not spoil the end, but I at least want to explain that as a Spidey fan, I am now genuinely excited and eager to know what will be the future of Spider-Man in cinema. Thank you so much for watching this review that may sound a bit salty, but again, it's because I love these movies and I just want them to be great and rewarded for not being just superheroes slash action-packed movies. Just give it a like and share it if you enjoyed it. In the meantime, take care of yourself, be safe. My name is François. Up. Oh, and FYI, the post-credit scene at the very end is actually a trailer for a future MCU movie, so don't stay until the end if you want to avoid trailers.